Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about the shit show we're forced to live through because we don't have any semblance of real governance. Um, it's the reason I think it's so important to get a real huge reboot of leadership in this country. Um, Definitely at the federal level, as many states as we can get. Little bit says we will be in bankruptcy just like the six companies 47 bankrupt. He's robbing us blind. I cannot agree more. I cannot agree more. Now, there's a bunch of things you can name this operation. Operation, let's disregard the peace program that Europe and the Obama administration set up. Operation, let's kill the dollar. Operation, let's end Social Security, Medicare, education, roads, highways, dams, infrastructure, trains, pediatric research, and support for the elderly. We're bankrupting ourselves. I'm sorry, we had a framework that most of the world was behind. Okay. Then two players who seem to be the one that wants to be the bull in the china shop, and they think that's the role in the world, break shit. Israel and the United States. Operation, let's have another tax break for billionaires. Because every time we have a war lately, it's been, oh, we need a tax break to fight a war. They're, yeah, we will be in bankruptcy soon. We will stop paying our debt. We will default on our debt soon. Because they've said it out loud. They're not going to pay taxes. And Iran is the proof in the pudding that spending the money was never the problem. And that's not at one party or the other. They both like spending money, but the real bombastic spends have been under Republicans. One third of all the debt, all time debt, one third of it belongs at the feet of dear leader porn star Humper. No, of course, I can't wait till dear leader announces how many Medal of Honors he thinks he should get for starting another war as the anti-war president. What are we at now? At a 5-front war? We got tankers in the Pacific, the fishermen in the Caribbean, Venezuela. We're blockading Cuba. We're attacking Iran. We're protecting Israel. We're still occasionally shooting at shit in Syria. So what's that? 7? And what is the first thing they did in this administration, like they do in all Republican administrations? They gave a tax break to themselves. Why? Because that's what the Powell memo told them to do. That's way back. The Powell memo is basically what created the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which originally was called the American Chamber of Commerce, that spawned other things like the Enterprise Institute and the Heritage Foundation. And it was to tie political control to ownership. And this was another plan that they had thought up and thought they could get away with. And it proves out that, like most of their other plans, it just went to shit. So now they're going to take it out on us. Well, first they're going to take it out on Iran. Khomeini is dead. Iran just confirmed that. That's why I jumped on. We decapitated another leadership. Since we have such a great track record of decapitating the leaders of other countries, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, we Somalia. We've had such a, well, I guess we didn't decapitate that. We decapitated any warlord that thought they could be a quasi-state entity. So yeah, we have a great track record of decapitating governments and creating power vacuums at the highest cost possible. Right after we gave billionaires a tax break, here we go again. You got your e-ticket? It's going to be a ride, and I mean it's going to be a ride. The missiles hitting Bahrain International Airport, Qatar, They'll hit various places in the region. Israel's got burning cars in the streets from missile strikes. Um, that's just the opening waves. Um, Wait for the terrorist attacks in Europe. Wait for the terrorist attacks in the United States and Canada. And this is going to be funny because they knew Iran was such a great global threat, they had to start bombing it, which makes a mockery of the rest of their policies. You're telling me fishermen in the Caribbean are more of a strategic threat than Iran? You just took out the leadership of a country because they didn't kill just Khomeini. Some reports are saying they have killed dozens of leaderships in the Iranian government already. This is more than a decapitation. This is a complete cleaving of the upper echelons of the Iranian government. So what the fuck were you doing chasing fucking oil tankers, chasing fishing boats? You're telling us a nuclear holocaust is going to happen if we don't intervene and stop bombing Iran, and you were murdering fishermen because they were sailing a certain direction that may have indicated drug trafficking. And when this goes to shit, and there's a bunch of ways it could go to shit. One ways is they have big enough missiles now. Um, they can put a tanker or a container shipping ship at the bottom of the Red Sea if they want to. Okay. And I mean Iran directly, not just the pissy satellite organizations, the proxies, Hezbollah, Houthi, Hamas. And speaking of Hamas and Hezbollah, this is really irritating. Um, you know, One, he said June 25th through Fox News that he had totally obliterated, and that's a quote, totally obliterated, close quote, the Iranian nuclear program. Now we're bombing the living fuck out of them, and I'm absolutely sure both Israel and us have boots on the ground. Okay, you totally obliterated the program 7 months ago. Now we're at open warfare in a regional war to take out the same program you said you destroyed 7 months ago. Okay, all right. If I'm supposed to buy that, I'm not going to. I guess we're all supposed to buy that for $1. The blowback is going to be extensive. UAA gifted 47 property in Bahrain, which was bombed today. Did 47 disclose this? I don't know about that. What what property? Do you mean the jumbo jet the UAE gave them? I'd have to look that up. I'm not worried of that. The blowback is going to be extensive. The markets are going to open down on Monday. I'll be watching Asia as it opens up Sunday night. Um, it's going to be a rough week of the stock market. Um, if Iran does use their shore-to-ship missiles to take out a oil tanker, you're going to have an oil shock price that's going to be somewhere between the Gulf 1 and 2 oil shocks in that pricing, and possibly as high as the embargo in the 1970s. You could see oil prices in trading shock, not actually supply and demand, go up greatly, and that's going to send inflation up worse than it is. And one of the things I don't understand is none of this is politically good for the MAGA people and dear leader himself. It's really not a good plan. Uh, to do this sort of shit that you could completely lose track of very quickly. You could lose control of this, and it's a midterm year. Yeah, persistent inflation. Nobody likes ICE, and I mean nobody. Even some of the Republicans don't like ICE. Independents fucking hate it. Um, uh, Democrats don't like it. Uh, this could go south in 24 different ways. I mean, Iranians could double down through their proxies plus direct action. Um, yeah, eventually they'll lose the war, but they can start a couple of battles that would be pretty bad for the United States. One of the things I keep thinking of is the swarm tactics they used in January 6th to attack Israel, Hamas attacking Israel. Um, they knew what to use drones carrying bombs on they on the remote control guns and the remote control cameras. It's the first things they took out. And then they did hyper swarms on certain sites because they knew they were protected by anti-aircraft, Patriot, THAAD, whatever's got they got going on in that district. And they realized they could just simply throw enough missiles. And I think the biggest missile attack they did was like 300 objects in the air at one time. Um, what if it's 1,000? What if it's 2,000 in the air at one time? What if it's 2,000, 1,000 heading toward Haifa, Israel, a port city, and 1,000 heading toward a carrier group like the Lincoln or the Ford? Because here's the rub on this politically. Iran does not have to sink an American ship to win a huge psychological battle in this global information space, which is part of the warfare space. Because Ho Chi Minh, hate the little commie bastard, but Ho Chi Minh said it the best. I'm not going to win on the battlefields. I'm going to win on the college campuses. So if they are be able to do a swarm attack and show that they can't cover two targets at once, like a major city, seaport in Israel, and a carrier group at the same time, and a couple of escort ships or a carrier itself even gets hit and damaged, the psychological and the news cycle win goes to Iran. This is how dicey this situation is. Worst case scenario, Iran decides to go totally rogue and they start driving truck bombs into the front gates of military bases in Europe. And then they start doing AK-47 and suicide vest attacks at Piggly Wigglies all over the Southeast. There's a lot of ways that this could all make everybody, Rubio, Trump, Hegseth, Miller, the whole crowd, can make them look like morons. Because one, we sell an air of invincibility, especially with the Navy. The Army, we're meat grinder troops. Not so much in the military police, but definitely in the infantry. Yeah, the reason we have the Army is in case of meat grinder. Okay, we don't have the same like, oh, look at us, we're the magic global power sailing the seas things as the Navy. Um, and there's been times there was the Stennis, there was the Cole that got hit. One was a missile, one was basically a suicide bombing on a skiff on a little outboard motor boat. The 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 problem is they've taken whack-a-mole as a theory. It started with the drug war, shooting the Caribbean fishermen. It's just whack-a-mole to them. You just got to go find a bigger club to hit the mole, and then you win. And I'm like, that's not how life works. That's not how the street works. From my readings, that's not how we win wars. Because it seems like Trump's big plan, by looking at his Trump's True Social Truth Sick social feed and reading some of the news alerts out there, he thinks that if he does a couple of missile strikes and a couple of bombing runs, and he takes out a couple of certain people, and he tells them, "Rise up, all the problems are solved." Well, didn't somebody else tell the Iraqis to rise up, and we bugged out on them? Didn't somebody else tell the Cubans to rise up, and we bugged out on them? Oh, Schumer and somebody else. I think both Democrats, but at least one Republican's going to jump on this. It's probably going to be Massey. Um, they want a War Powers Act vote on Monday on this, because I guess it was highly rumored, highly discussed, but never briefed. That's a problem. Definitely wasn't debated. Definitely wasn't voted on. The power of war is in the House of Representatives. It's not in the Oval Office. And that is a continuing fuck up by this government and the people we elect to serve in that government. They seem to not understand who the fuck has war powers. They're turning every situation into failsafe. The famous movie with Henry Fonda and Larry Krugman. Larry from Dallas, the famous TV show, his very first movie, by the way, just like Doctor Strangelove or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love the Bomb. Very first movie for James Earl Jones. In fact, he had a much bigger speech about humanity when he stuck his head up into the cockpit from the radio room below the B-52 Stratofortress's pilot and co-pilot navigator seats. He had a whole big speech, but they had to cut it out for editing and timing purposes. So yeah, Iran's a big deal, and we've already decapitated the government, the leadership. And I seriously do not just see the Republican Guard, the the main security force slash paramilitary force in Iran. I don't see them taking this lying down. And my fears this evening is dear leader, porn star Humper, an alcoholic, women abusing mental case as a Secretary of Defense who thinks he's the Secretary of War. It's not true. Department of Defense was named by statute. Unless you pass another statute, still the Department of Defense. Rubio, complete clown. He should walk around in a dog collar with a big steel ring and a leash, and a Nazi dominatrix should tow him around lectern to lectern and spank his ass every time he says something wrong at the lectern. He's that much of a fucking gimp. And if you didn't like these clowns before, you're going to really hate them when you understand the costs of Iran, the cost of the conflict in Iran. Because every time we go to war, we give a tax break to billionaires. Every time we get halfway through fighting a war, we figure out we're spending too much money and we need to cut services. But when we say cut services, we mean increase the military budget, decrease everything else in society. And fucking ICE. I mean, what the fuck was ICE beating up the tamale grandma in Chula Vista for? I don't get that. I don't fucking get that. Chasing Jorge and Juan through the fucking artichoke fields in Watsonville. The FBI is now on full alert for domestic terrorist attacks or domestic military attacks in the United States. So why wasn't ICE looking for Iranian agents? Sleeper cells, Republican Guard outfits that made it across the border. Their porous southern border they're always worried about. Oogie boogie, oogie boogie. Okay. All borders are porous. I've told you this before. And there is no sealing a modern border. Okay. If you think the North Wall in Game of Thrones was real, you probably need to go to therapy. Yes, Congress is the only one that has authority to change an agency's names. That is absolutely true. They have made us all unsafe. Also, absolutely true. And you know how I know they've made us less unsafe? Because I am such a fucking walk here. I'm the one that reads the summaries, or I pull down the PDF and I give them to Sal 9000. And I said, give me the summary of what they just dropped for the quarterly security reports or the annual security strategy report. Okay. Every time we do a military op, we're worse off than we were before the military op. And that's been true since the aftermath of 9/11. So, yeah, is bombing Iran making us safer? No, it's not making us safer. It's not making Israel safer. It's not making Jordan safer. It's not making Germany, France, Italy, England safer. Belgium, Netherlands. No, it's not making anybody safer. It's putting everybody at a new height of risk. Do you know why we actually started bombing Iran? It has nothing to do with negotiations and nuclear weapons and enrichment centrifuges. No. Why did we do Venezuela the way we did? Because we can. That's it. The military has an unlimited budget. They have unlimited global authority to get involved in anything they want in the world. All they have to do is feed President a storyline, and he goes, "Yep, let's do it." That's not a vote in the House. They get a 20-minute story in the Situation Room. We're in full blown war, and we're spending $1 trillion. And again, they're going to tell us after they spend the $1 trillion, it's coming out of our ass. The downstream cost of this, minimum, $1 trillion. A trillion with a T. Because whatever weapon system fails in this adventurism cycle, we're going to need anywhere from 100 billion to $500 million to build in a completely new weapon system to replace what didn't work in Iraq or didn't work to our liking. Then there's the VA cost. Oh, all these ships, I talked about that the other day. All these ships were pulling out of cycle to go back to seaport to get repairs, upgrades, and maintenance. None of that shit's being done. Some shits are 6 months overdue at the seaport. Okay, that means costs are going up every day we have them deployed. And we'll have less military resources available in the future the more we stack up the maintenance at the seaport. And America has a long history of doing shit that's not exactly helps out the total situation. Look at Vietnam. Every single B-52 Stratofortress we lost bombing Cambodia or North Vietnam, was a B-52 we couldn't use to defend ourselves against the Russians during a nuclear strike. We haven't made B-52s in a hell of a long time. We stopped making B-52s before Vietnam was over. So every time one of those airframes hit the earth at near Mach 1, that was a permanent loss of a platform to defend ourselves or retaliate against the Soviet Union during a thermonuclear war. We cut off our nose to spite our face. That's pretty much our long-term military strategy. If Iran just dissolves into chaos like Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, yada 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 did, and they just export their terroristic skills, you could have attacks all over the world, everywhere from Australia and New Zealand to Europe and America and Canada. They didn't think this through. They had a predetermined plan to put fuck up one and fuck up two, Witkoff and Jared Kushner, over in the Middle East to not solve world peace. Because remember, Jared Kushner's been at world peace for 10 years now, but Jared Kushner seems to be earning billions of dollars instead of doing what? Solving world peace. Very busy taking that money from the Arab League, in the Arab League countries and the royalty families of the Middle East. Hasn't been able to do one fucking thing about peace. He's been at it for 10 years. Accomplished fucking zero other than putting money in his pocket. You get the con America? And I watched with my wife last night. I own it on Blu-ray Network with Faye Dunaway, Robert Duvall. Um, why aren't we mad as hell? And why aren't we going to take it anymore? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. We are compliant, we are subservient, and we are ready for failure. Network was made by Sidney Lumet in 1976. That movie is still so spot on today. It's about corporate ownership of media. It's about being told a byline that's not even necessarily true. It's just placative to keep you doing what you're supposed to be doing, earning the oligarchic families more money. If they make your life miserable, that's just a fact of life. We're supposed to make their lives wonderful. Yeah, little bit says, I personally paid a lot of taxes in the last few years. I feel you. I worked at a big tech company. It was making buku dollars. I was paying more in taxes than the median annual income for a head of household in the United States. I feel you. I'm not wealthy, but the billionaires pay nothing. That's true. And every time they get into office, they give themselves another tax break. They're going to tell you we already don't pay taxes. Whatever tiny things we get caught on, we want exceptions from that too. Then we want to bitch about the debt. And the debt has been created by whom? Those who do not pay taxes. We gave away the barn and now we're wondering how we're going to run the farm. Oh, I had a funny incident today. This is another thing. Keep an eye out on the weirdos. They're coming to Substacks in droves, in droves. I had a guy who's been on Substack for like 12 days, has one subscriber, one follower. He subscribes to one person, and he's on my page flipping the fuck out on me because in a comment thread, I jokingly called Stephen Miller a Nazi douche canoe. And he demanded to know why I would think Stephen Miller is a Nazi. I don't know. Evidence in hand? Company he keeps? Yeah, they're not going to go down without a fight. The far right, but the fight they're fighting is just like Iran. It's misguided. It's off target. It's bombastic. It's not well thought. It's not strategic. And it has no consideration for the future. Now, I knew it was a bogus account because he had too much Americana labor. Like, he's that far right wing and he loves Stephen Miller and he needs to get into an argument online, even though this is his first week on Substack. But he's a member of a trade union, and that trade union is his life. But he supports the Nazi cabal of authoritarians using any authoritarian shit they can grab a hold of. Because this is the funny thing about Trumpianism. They don't give a shit if it's Nazi or commie. They'll take it. As long as it gives them control, they don't give a shit. Yeah, weirdos are all over Substack now. Miller is a Nazi. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, both correct. Twofer, both correct. Yeah, I told you guys the story. Well, I'm sitting in the bar in the 1980s in West Germany, and we're striking up a conversation. We were told that this hangout was kind of like the cantina in Star Wars. Things happen in this establishment, so we went to check it out. And yeah, a lot of gangsters, a lot of weirdos, and then two guys at the bar, and I go, "Ah, man, I don't have a couple of Deutschmarks." And he goes, "Oh, they raised the taxes on the cigarettes again." So I whip out Marlboro Lights because I just went to the the ration store. Because in Germany, all your big stuff, sugar, alcohol, cigarettes, gasoline, they're all rations still like wartime. Prevents black markets and a bunch of other stuff. But of course, we kind of slightly violated that rules working undercover. I had just bought a carton of cigarettes and I made sure that I threw a couple of sealed packs in my jacket because they're great conversation starters with some Germans. Um, and this guy sitting at the bar goes, "Oh man, I really want a cigarette." I go, "Oh, here, man. I just went to the store today." He goes, "It's on me, no problem." He goes, "Oh, what can I buy you?" I go, "Hey, give me a shot of vodka. We're even." "Oh man, thank you, thank you, thank you." Well, we got to strike up the conversation with these guys, and we're thinking like, okay, we gotta make contact with somebody in this bar. Well, the two guys we make contact with eventually admit to us is they are Nazis and they don't like being called Neo. That was a fun daily report to write up the next day. Yeah, these guys are they true Nazis? No, no. They're more like North Korean, the Kim Jong Un family. They're more like them. They're just an amalgam of any draconian authoritarianism or totalitarian system that they can implement. Because like North Korea, a lot of people say they're Stalinist. No, they're not. They're an amalgam of a whole bunch of different bullshit. Everything from Stalinism and communism to voodoo and a system of necrocracy. Dead people running your country. Yeah, Grandpa ran the country for like 30 years after he died, at least on paper. Okay, so are they true Nazis? Nah. Are they authoritarians? Yes. Are they totalitarians? That's where they're heading. Yeah. And they'll do anything. They'll do any Nazi or communist bullshit to get their way. because seizing Intel, AMD, and Nvidia, and claiming partial ownership of private corporations that are publicly traded on the stock market when there's not a crisis is communist bullshit. And I think they know that, but they don't care. Is it an ends to a means? That's all they care about. It's really, really, really that simple to these guys. And if you know the whole compendium, like the Powell memo that created the right wing groups, the Volcker hammer that decided to implement poverty in the southern hemisphere of the planet, plus in the working space of the United States, to make sure that the wealthy of the United States and other places remained wealthy. Um, Reagan's tax cuts, W's go shopping. Here's a tax cut. Let's go to war and spend 4 or 5, 6, $7 trillion. We don't care. Um, yeah, this is all a compendium. And now they know that they're at the end of the cycle, and they only have two outcomes here. Either they completely fail and republicanism is thrown out the door, in whatever bad form it is now, because it's a horrible form of it now. It was much better under Ike, than it is today, of course. Uh, so they know that either they're gonna completely blow out the tires, or they're gonna turn this into something that looks like some amalgamation of Orban's Hungary, Putin's Russia, and Kim Jong Un's North Korea. It's going to be some mixed shit salad of totalitarianism. So to enforce a class structure, a racial structure, a gender structure, and a money structure. Because I think what they're going for in the end is they want to have a militaristic neo corporate feudalism in the end. I think that's the outcome they want from the Heritage Foundation, from the Powell memo, from people they tried to disavow, but was really like the real early Lyndon LaRouche stuff is getting very, very close to before Lyndon LaRouche went to being a far leftist, wacky communist. He started as a far right neo Nazi. Um, early Lyndon LaRouche is now Trumpianism. Okay. And one of the things that terrifies Dear Leader Pornstar Humper is, from my readings, it was Putin himself who told him that you're going to face an orange revolution. You're going to face a revolution just like this Eastern Soviet bloc's country did. And you and all your friends are going to be out in the woods. Okay. That's why ICE is in the streets. That's why another tax break happens. That's why we're bombing Iran. Anything to keep the status quo as the lackey welfare clan of the oligarchs. They stay in power with plenty of help from the Democrats. Don't get me wrong. Plenty of help from the Democrats over the years. Yeah, it's all about us being their slaves. Yes, they want their plantations back. And they don't care if their slaves are black Africans or white Irishmen. They don't give a shit. Mm, this is definitely something I want to talk about tonight. Now, the fourth round of Trump and Bondi. They are as anti Second Amendment as you could imagine. These guys are commie Second Amendment types. The Supreme Court is going to hear a case very soon, this week or the next, the following week, The oral arguments will happen because the Trump administration and the Bondi DOJ has decided if you have ever smoked a joint, you have ever enjoyed the wacky weed, you're a connoisseur of cannabis, you love the merriment of marijuana, you would be permanently banned from buying or possessing a gun for your entire life. Not that marijuana and cannabis is specifically outlined in any statute that says if you possess cannabis, you cannot have a gun, or more specifically, if you've ever used cannabis, you lose your right to guns for the rest of your life. Okay. That law doesn't exist, but that's what they want to enforce. Okay. Half the states, marijuana is legal in one form or another. Cannabis is legal in one form or another, both THC and CBD. So if you can take a case like marijuana use, and especially the way they're describing it out of the DOJ, as broadly and as vaguely as they normally do under the Trumpian, Bondian DOJ methodology, is yeah, did you dare smoke a joint in college? You're not allowed to go duck hunting. Did you get back from Iraq and your buddy rolled a fatty because you had post-traumatic stress disorder and you just need to chill out this weekend? You can't enter that skeet competition this weekend. That's what they're going to argue in front of the Supreme Court. This is after they took a case of a armed felon with a long criminal history. He was beating his girlfriend in a Walmart parking lot. When people started calling 911, he whipped out a pistol and started shooting at the reporting party and at witnesses. They took it all the way to the Supreme Court claiming, oh my God, you violated this man's civil rights and you've taken away his guns. You mean after his fifth felony? We're going to take away his guns? Yes, we're going to take away his guns, you fucking moron. Even Amy Coney Barrett couldn't take the case. She couldn't even stomach it. She goes, this is not exactly a good defendant to bring these arguments to our court. Don't you think? So it was absolutism. Felons in the progress of domestic violence felonies may attempt to commit murder with a firearm against the reporting party dialing 911. Gun absolutism. This week, if you've ever smoked a joint, you're not allowed to have a gun, and the DA should be getting a search warrant to come into your door, have the SWAT team and the police tank drive the fucking tank through your front door, shoot your dog, and then take your guns. The felon beating his live-in girlfriend has a constitutional right to a firearm, even when he took a shot at the reporting party. You do not have the right to own a gun if you smoked a joint while you were fucking studying poetry at University of Massachusetts at Amherst. Makes sense for them. Makes sense for me, please. I warned you, stupid idiots on the right. The two least Second Amendment people on this fucking planet is Pam Bondi and Donald J. Trump. Gangsters and felons affiliated with Donald J. Trump's street gang. Dear leaders, homies, what's up? Represent. They have gun rights. You don't. I don't. Are you understanding this, or do I need to draw it out in crayon? This is the fourth time they have gone 100% anti-Second Amendment. And they're taking it all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, I think this is going to be fun because, of course, lapdog Clarence Thomas will be finding a sock to sniff. Oh, let me sit here and smell the essence of my daddy. Okay, no matter what happens, he's voting with Trump. Okay, because we don't have justices, we have lapdogs. Okay. But he ain't getting this shit past Gorst. He ain't getting this shit past Comey Barrett. He ain't getting this shit past Roberts. And he ain't getting it past the liberals either. Because guess who has teamed up to defend gun rights in this Supreme Court oral argument, in this Supreme Court case? Who has teamed up? Now play the Jeopardy music in your head. Da na 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 na. Of course, the NRA is standing up for gun rights. Co-counsel in this case will be the ACLU. I kid you not. The NRA, a bunch of other groups, ACLU, and a bunch of other groups are all teamed up to fight this nonsense. They keep telling you their Second Amendment absolutist, no questions on earth. You can own a nuclear, chemical, or biological weapon under the Second Amendment. People have said that in town halls and at campaign stops on the far right. Now, you smoked a joint at the Van Halen show in Worcester, Massachusetts in 1984. Actually, I didn't smoke a joint there. I just got a contact high because everybody else on the floor was smoking. Um, Now you can't own a gun. So gun rights aren't rights. They're whims and privileges at best. Because if you can say, because like the way I started using high dose cannabis was for pain relief because the muscle relaxers and the oxycontins after the accident were fucking killing me. So my doctor and I decided to. Actually, I first started to switch, and then he agreed to me because I had to get away from the muscle relaxers. They were literally killing me. Um, if you can do this to look, my doctor, I was my family physician's very first medical marijuana prescription. He ended up writing several prescriptions because he saw how it helped several people for several reasons. Me with pain, another person with uh, um, uh, what is it called? The fear of leaving your home. The guy hadn't left his home in like 13 years. He started smoking a couple of joints a week. And without anybody prompting him, he suddenly bought symphony tickets and took his mother to the city to go see a concert, something he hadn't done in nearly 15 years. Okay. So I have a prescription or had one before when all went legal. Um, so if they can take away your guns because you smoked a joint at the Van Halen show, with Satriani show or the Snarky Puppy show, you lose your rights. What if you've drank a beer, drank a vodka? You're on some long-term prescription drug to maintain your health. If the government can just vaguely decide that, oh, if we think you ever did marijuana, we can take your guns. And they're not just saying like we're going to prevent you from buying a new gun or buying ammo at the store. They're saying, why isn't the DA and the federal prosecutors not writing warrants for your ass? Why aren't we draconianly enforcing this? That's what they're saying. And they're not talking about going after people with mental problems who have military grade carbines, assault weapons. They're talking about people who may have used marijuana in the past and we don't believe in their politics or we don't agree with their politics. Therefore, we want to take their guns away. The same way we want to take their right to voting away. The same way some states are taking away driver's license, passports, and birth certificates. This is the legal construct phase of authoritarianism. They're building up the bullshit laws that make everything you do illegal, everything they do proper and a tax deduction. Pamela asks, "Are they trying to pull this because they assume only liberals smoke pot?" Yes. Miller and Trump both are teetotalers. And they probably do believe that, but let me tell you, some of my conservative friends, and I'll readily admit, I am a cannabis connoisseur. I love cannabis, especially the way it makes my body feel and the way it relaxes my muscles and my spine from the accident. I am an absolute connoisseur. I use it almost every single day. Okay. But trust me, I'm not a liberal and I use. I have plenty of conservative friends. Okay. Come Friday night, what do they want? A glass of scotch and a big ass fatty. Okay. Oh, and behind the picture in their man cave, there's a little picture where you can touch it and the picture will open and there's a little keypad. And that's where all their, crazy guns are. Okay. And they're conservatives, small c conservatives. I don't have any friends that are MAGA. Why would I? But yeah, I think they are misinterpreting the consumer space. I think that's really, really, really true. They literally think it's all hippies that smoke pot, and hippies do. There's still hippies around here in Berkeley in the city. But is it the hippies? No. Did the hippies start the legal market? Yeah, yeah. I've actually met the guy who started Harborside, and I went out and advocated for him um, when they started legalizing here, what, 15, 18 years ago. I surprised a lot of people at a city council meetings. I introduced myself, who I am. I'm ex-military, police, retired cop, and I said the drug war is an absolute failure. We should legalize this. We should tax the fuck out of it because you guys can't manage a budget and you need the money. Okay. And if you're telling me pot possession cases is good police work, you're a fucking asshole. Hippies were only right about two things. They were right about solar panels, and they were right about marijuana. Got to give them the credit on those two things. Everything else, no, they got it wrong. But those two things, I own solar panels and I like pot. The communal living, no, thank you. The patchouli oil, no, thank you. Yeah, but the like, and there's also like understanding like who the non-liberals are. This doesn't compute in the MAGA skull. They think if you're conservative, you are MAGA. There's an automatic vanilla relationship to their bullshit. But throughout history, you've had conservatives that like PJ O'Rourke. He was a big fan of marijuana. Okay, he was quite a conservative. Okay, didn't like the bullshit of the con artist far right, like any other sane person. But yeah, he was a conservative writer, and yeah, he liked pot. In fact, he had a great joke about pot. He used to tell, and people used to moan. And he goes, "Why are you so mad at marijuana?" He goes, "I have two teenage sons. What other drug is going to make my sons drive a car at 14 miles an hour? Hard to hurt yourself at 14 miles an hour." It was a DUI backhanded joke, which still to this day I think is funny. But I cannot believe how the NRA has any more relevance whatsoever. First of all, it's not a organization of members. It's an organization of gun manufacturers. Almost all their revenue comes from gun manufacturers. And what do? They allowed Wayne LaPierre and the rest of the board to literally rob them blind, buying LaPierre trips and jet flights and expensive suits and expensive dinners. Um, and they don't even listen to what the NRA membership rank and file has to say. Because if you actually survey NRA members, they're totally for background checks and insurance. It's the board of zealots, corporate lobbyists supporting corporate gun manufacturers who say these things should be sold over the county like we're selling gum or selling a fucking Pez dispenser. They don't represent anything real on the ground in America, and they haven't for 25, 30 years. Hell, in the 90s, I think I told you guys this before, I sent my lifetime NRA card back to Wayne LaPierre, personally addressed in an envelope to him, care of Wayne LaPierre, care of the NRA headquarters, da, da, da. And I took my lifetime membership card, cut it up into a billion pieces, and wrote him a fuck you letter. An angry fuck you letter. Because the NRA I grew up with in the 70s was about gun safety and hunting safety. It wasn't about arming the kooks to go kill government officials and cops. Where one place where the NRA runs afoul of gun owners, of sane gun owners, not gun fetishists. And I wrote an essay about gun fetishists. Go look it up. The the fact that you would argue against background checks even as an anti-terrorism measure with foreign terrorists buying U.S. guns or cartels buying U.S. guns, they consider trying to stop selling guns to terrorists an infringement of gun rights. Again, that's the NRA, the organization of corporate lobbyists, not mainstream gun owners, with me. Now, I expect when they lose this case over cannabis use and gun ownership, they will simply find another issue to go back to the Supreme Court and take away guns. Because remember, in 2025, it was a blanket prohibition against all trans folk from owning a gun. All their guns should be confiscated. The pro Second Amendment Republican right leadership in power today said they should seize guns away from people they do not like. That was 2025's attempt. 2026 is, well, if you use cannabis, but we're gonna eliminate all other drugs Americans use. And it's all drugs, you lying bitches. It's all drugs. Caffeine is a drug. Nicotine is a drug. If you've ever smoked a cigarette, and we're going to take away your guns. If you've ever had a cup of coffee, we're going to take away your guns. Ethanol is a drug. You ever drank a beer? You've ever had a strong sauerkraut? We're going to take away your guns. Never mind moonshine. These people are not who they told you they were. Card-carrying conservatives and the lackeys, minions, sycophants, and acolytes and morons need to wake up to the fact is they do not give a shit about you or a single issue they've ever talked about. They care about one thing, being in power and staying out of prison like every other fucking dictatorship that's ever lived. There's going to be some tough times ahead. They're going to be made worse by Trump's policies and his sycophants' policies. Because I doubt Trump, other than some repetitive grievances he's memorized through his dementia, all these policies are coming from Stephen Miller and Ross Vaught. They're not coming from Donald Trump. Stephen Miller is the actual working president in 2025 and 2026. It's not Donald Trump. He is just a figurehead to go out there and bombastically freak out about whatever they whispered in his ear. That's how we're bombing Iran. That's why we're bombing fishing boats. They have no plan for the aftermath. So when the aftermath goes south and this all turns into a fucking disaster, who's going to pay the price? It's not going to be Elon Musk. It's not going to be Howard Lutnick. It's not going to be Jamie Dimon, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, David Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman. It's not going to be them paying the price. It's going to be you, your family, your friends, your kids paying the price. Now, the wave that this is going to add to the amplitude of the existing wave that's already here could line up in our favor come the midterm. But if we don't get out and vote in the midterm, and we vote on top of the angst of the regular voter, because I think when the negatives come out of Iran, whether it be rapid oil inflation, security problems in Europe and America, whatever goes bad, a lot of people who jumped on the Trumpian train are going to bail, and they're going to vote differently in the midterms. We have to be out there adding to that amplitude and getting new voters in to really ramp it up, to cause it to be a complete blowout. Because without a blowout, he is going to claim that the election was false, fraudulent, something it wasn't. And he is going to try to maintain control. If we have a slight victory in the midterms, that's not going to help anything. We need a substantial defeat for MAGA, for Trumpianism, and for the bullshit near Nazism of MAGA. So spread the word, please. Thank you for all your likes, your tweets, your restacks. I super appreciate it. Love the follows and the substacks. Thank you for all being here tonight. It's a great crowd. Thank you for your comments and questions in the live chat. We'll get together soon because this is far from over. And I think we were already heading for a very rough time in 2026 between natural gas prices, food prices, electrical prices, the Iran problem. The Iran scenario has just made it a hell of a lot worse. Pay attention. Don't freak out. Remember to breathe. I have to remind myself of these things. Two distinct sessions where I had to use my military training. Once when they didn't have my prescription ready after surgery and I ran out of opioids in my body. The phenol was gone, the Oxycontin was gone, and the pain from surgery was coming back. I literally had to get into my breathing exercise and my calmness exercises. And when I heard we just started bombing Iran late last night and that we were going to go after the leadership and decapitate the whole country, I literally late last night had to do that same stay calm exercise. Because like when you're out in an operation and stuff, you can't freak out. Whatever it takes, you've got to stay in a heightened but aware mode. And breathing is one of the best things you can do to reorientate yourself. So stay in the game. That's what I'm saying. Stay in the game. Be independent. Vote independent. Run for local office as an independent. Okay. Pay attention. Spread the word. Don't accept the bullshit. Don't accept the outright lies. Inflation has been defeated. That's an outright lie. We had no means to stop Iran from furthering their program. Outright lie. That program was thrown out so you could go to war. Okay. Stick to your guns, stay calm, and be ready for the midterms. Okay. Be back at you soon. Thank you for being here tonight. Until next time, please think about it. Peace out.